Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Enrico De Castro, and you are tuning in to the What's in Your Case podcast. Our guest today is a multi-instrumentalist, an artist, and has a interesting relationship with a vegetable. My friend, Jeremy.
Hey, how's it going?
So I mentioned you're a multi-instrumentalist. I know that you do piano, guitar, ukulele, banjo, but what other instruments do you play?
I think I heard somebody say they can make most things make a sound, and I stole that. I can't remember who I stole that from, but I'm mostly focusing on guitar and sax and keyboard right now and neglecting to practice percussion stuff, but I want to get back into that a little bit. I'm staying in those areas. Maybe one day I'll branch out a little bit more, but I'm sticking in that area for now.
Do you name your instruments? And if so, what are some of their names?
I had the perfect anime answer for this. Did you ever watch Bleach?
Yes.
You know, like Kenpachi, he has like the nameless sword.
So you wait for your instruments to give you their name first?
Yeah, exactly. But so far, it's the nameless guitar that I've had for however many years. So I guess the answer to that is no, I don't really have any names, but I wish I did.
And sometimes, it just takes that question for my guests to really consider naming their instruments.
Yeah.
It's not something people think about sometimes, so it's next time around, love to hear some of the names.
Yeah, maybe one of these days.
Now, do these chords sound familiar? C minor 6, G7, G7 suspended second, C major 7, and A7.
I know you wrote them down because I saw an Instagram story, but I can't remember what song that's for.
September 27th, 2020. You posted these chords with the caption, "Figuring out weird jazz chords for inversion." Could you tell us what inversions are and if you learned how to play these chords?
In music, there's a triad. So like a C major chord is a C, E, G. And then if you change what root node you're using, but you keep the same notes, so C, E, G is the chord, and then E, G, C would be the first inversion, and then G, C, E would be the second inversion. And then so you have these options to just change kind of the flavor, color of the chord based on how you arrange the notes. So on guitar, it's a little harder to get there, but I was playing around with some keyboard stuff and it's a little easier to visualize how to, like, a little bit more methodically visualize how chord and sound is coming to be. If that makes any sense.
So speaking of September 2020, there's 4 years of nothing. So your first post was September 2020, but you had this EP 2016. Was there some kind of archiving of promoting this EP that happened before your first post?
No, I'm just disorganized, and I started getting into music production around that time. But yeah, I was moving around a bunch. So let's see, I started producing the first track on that. Well, the one I actually started with was I Was the Night on there, and I started that when I was living in Santa Cruz, and then I finished the album when I was living in Tucson. I was doing like AmeriCorps, these nonprofit jobs, and then I was like, oh, I'm too broke, I need to make some money. So I was like, let me get a job that pays me decently, and then I can get back to it, but that took longer than I thought.
So do you think because of the pandemic, you had enough time to sit down and really get back into doing music?
I wouldn't say that necessarily, because I've always been just sporadically and chaotically doing music, because it's just hard to manage working and playing music at the same time. I feel like I figured out more now, but it's like, there's pros and cons to all situations, but I never really got a break during the pandemic. I was working in healthcare at the time. I didn't really get a break. I was just working the whole time, but there was a couple times that I was able to find a week to record some music or kind of start some of these projects of wandering out into the woods and trying to record a cover of a song, which I found really satisfying. But just work schedules in the past have made it hard to commit as much as I wanted to making music. And there was sometimes during the pandemic when I felt more able to just have a little bit of time to set things up, and especially working from home. But I'd say more now that I have my systems down, I am able to do more projects and be more active. But all the projects I've done have been really rushed and kind of chaotic. But some of that happened during the pandemic for sure.
So I mentioned you had an interesting relationship with a vegetable. February 22nd, 2021, you posted a picture that you called Cabbage Boy 2021 Chili Oil, Cabbage, and Ink on Notepaper.
Yeah.
March 23rd, 2021, You posted a picture with a cabbage replacing your head that you called Cabbage Dream.
It's good.
December 17th, 2022. You posted trying to remember how to record songs and make them interesting, featuring Cabbage Guy on a skateboard.
Yeah.
Before we get into the December 17th post, I need to know, and I think everybody needs to know, who is Cabbage Guy and how did he come to be?
I don't know. Cabbage Guy is just the muse. And originally, well, I was like trying to figure out some like music names at the time, and there's a few I liked. One of them was just Cabbage Boy, but I saw somebody else had that name already, which I feel like isn't that big of a deal. And maybe I would have gone to that. I'm kind of maybe thinking of another name now, but it's such a good vegetable. I feel like it's earthy but flavorful. And I like to cook, so I think I was just like eating a bunch of cabbage. And I'm like, just love the vegetable. It's really, yeah, it's not like super complicated, but I liked drawing the little cabbage guy. I just thought it was kind of goofy. Yeah, I don't know, for whatever. We all have themes and different phases and stuff we go through, but I feel like the cabbage theme is just fun, and I can't really explain why.
So back to the post, December 17th, 2022. Trying to remember how to record songs and make them interesting, featuring Cabbage Guy on a skateboard. It had a picture with 3 different versions of a song. One you wrote vocal harmonies, jazz brushes, cajon, strings, and horn. The second one was clean steel string guitar / vocals, basic rhythm, vocal harmonies, and the third, clear nylon guitar, vocals, basic rhythm, vocal harmonies. Can you tell me the thought process behind each of these versions and what you remembered about recording songs and making them interesting?
I don't know. Is that on my Instagram? Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm kind of remembering now. Yeah, I guess like the first version is a more produced thing. I feel like playing with Pomegranate Sunday has been good for just figuring out what kind of sounds I like and just keeping things moving. But at the time, it's like just being a lot in my head about what kind of sounds I want and trying to map that out in a really abstract sense. And I like what I wrote down. I have to try that again. The rhythm on that song is kind of weird. And then the other 2 versions were just more stripped down versions like I had on the zine, where it's just guitar and vocal, and then potentially putting some harmonies behind it. One of those songs aren't necessarily the cleanest, but I think they're somewhat interesting. I like to go back and listen to it again every once in a while. So, and it's funny looking back on it because it was like so abstract then, but now I'm like, oh, I play music with people all the time, so I know like kind of who I would have do these things. It is kind of fun looking back on that, and it's like, oh yeah, this stuff was so abstract, but now it's more concrete. Just being back in the music scene after a couple years, or just different arrangements of balancing like a more fleshed out harmonies with percussion and horns and different kinds of things versus a more stripped down production with guitars and maybe a couple harmonies. I don't know if I did write something down, I don't think it would look like this at all.
All right, and the last cabbage thing for now. You have a YouTube channel called Cabbage XX Cabbage, or if it goes by Hunter Hunter rules, Cabbage Cabbage, that you made November 15th, 2020. But there's only 3 videos on the channel. There is Wild Might and Time, the Love Jeremy cover, Blue Spotted Tail, Fleet Foxes Love Jeremy cover, The Way I Feel Inside, Fleet Foxes Love Jeremy cover. Do you think you're going to post... Do you think you're going to post more videos to YouTube? If not on this account, would it be a new account that aligns with your new artist name once you've created one?
Yeah, I want to. That was fun. That was when I was living in LA, and I would see, I think I was at Griffith Park when I went out and just brought like a tripod and my phone and my computer and a small interface, and I just did like a 1 mic setup. I have more plans for that I've been working on with a couple folks to do those kind of like raw takes of a song. I want to do more of those. I also want to like do kind of some sessions with other people because I just think it's really fun to do that kind of thing and be outside and record it and get all the background noise. Yeah, it's just a fun project. I do want to get back into that. Let's see, what songs did I do again? I did Wild Mountain Time. So I was just doing covers. I have kind of like a bigger project I'm going to get started at some point. Yeah, I do want to get back out to doing that. I live by the river now, so I have like some convenient places to go. But again, it's just kind of time constraints and having kind of chaotic schedules and all that sort of thing.
Which do you prefer to create when it comes to recording stuff? Like songs or videos, do you prefer doing long form content or short form content?
If short form is like TikToks, I'm not like necessarily that good at it. So long to medium term, I like my favorite thing to do is just like go out in the woods and record a song. So I feel like that's kind of medium. And then I've been trying to get more into some video editing. I like these people who do their gig vlogs and they do some of their practice sessions and they film a little bit of their set and they talk about just the different aspects of their experience doing different parts of being a musician and all that kind of thing. So I want to do more of that, which is more kind of medium to long term. Yeah, that's an interesting question because I guess it's different framed differently. Is there a way that you understand short form versus long form content? Because I know you're always making stuff, which is cool. You got background in some more like acting and as well as music, and you're famous on TikTok. So curious about your take on that.
Long form's definitely a bit more of a challenge for me. I'd like to do more, but trying to get close enough to perfection nips you in the butt. With short form content, it's easier for me to really isolate things and get to the good stuff. And if I mess up on a short form content, it's easier for me to re-record and correct the mistake as opposed to doing another full 3 minutes.
Yeah, actually, I have more of an answer now, I guess, after you say that. Because I've been thinking about it a lot, and one of the reasons I haven't produced that much music over the past few years is because I've been thinking about the word rapture a lot, not necessarily in the biblical sense, but maybe the second definition down there, where it's like this all-encompassing obsession, and that's kind of how I operate best, just get into like a hyper focus, which kind of lends itself towards more focus on long form things. But since it does require like a time commitment, I don't end up actually producing that much because I need to get into that space. And then for me, I think of short form content. When I do think of it, I'm like, oh, let me just get a clip of the bigger thing I made. And that can be like a short form thing, but I don't necessarily have as much focus on the short form because it just doesn't work out as well for me. It's like I need to just be totally immersed in the thing that I'm creating. And then it's just after that you can kind of come down and see the thing that you made and then maybe make some short form things out of it. But I have thought of making short form things, but it's really difficult for me. I feel like I just don't work in that way where it's just on a whim. So yeah, short form's a little more difficult for me for sure.
Speaking of long form content, April 6, 2021, you posted about your first live stream on Twitch. On that live stream, you turned a voice memo into a song and talked about music theory. Do you think that you'll return to live streaming at some point? What do you feel about live streaming as a form of how people create content?
Yeah, I don't know. It was fun. I don't know if it really works for music as well, because I do watch some just random streamers, either games or just like political commentary. It was like a good experiment, but I don't know if it necessarily works. And that could be one of those things where you're like kind of getting more involved in it. Like I was saying before, is like I need to get more involved in it. And then maybe you could like chop it up and have like a 10-second Instagram video about how you made a song or something like that. It was good because it helped me to do some of the more difficult things back then because I was more diving in a little bit deeper to music theory. So it's that song. I had the voice memo and then I figured out what key it was in just by playing around on the guitar over it, and then mapped out the diatonic chords, which just means the chords that are in that key, and then doing kind of this project of listening to the melody and then seeing which chords in the key that I liked or that kind of fit over the melody. And there's a lot of ways to do that. Now that I'm getting a little bit more into jazz and some more complicated things like that, I have more flexibility around how I can do that. But it was a good first exercise of just being like, oh, there's a melody, there's a key. I know I have these 7 chords I can play around with. Let me see which ones work. That was a cool exercise. I don't know if I'm too keen on getting into this streaming again because I feel like my songwriting process has developed in a different way. My songwriting process is so different now.
All right, let's step away from music for a bit, and I'd like to get to know a bit more about you. May 13th, 2021, you posted that you like to write down little contemplations to put by your doorway.
Oh, yeah.
The one you wrote on this day was Tend to Your Garden, accompanied by a picture of grass with wildflowers. Is this still a practice that you do? And what are some of your favorite contemplations that you've written down, if you remember any?
I feel like I've kind of gotten in and out of this, but I started this little journal that I call the Good Magic Notebook, and I just put little things in there that are like, they're just like kind of random thoughts on a whim, but sometimes they're compulsive and they kind of feel like they encapsulate a certain part of how life is going. So they're like mini journals, maybe in like mantras, but I feel like that's more serious. They're just like little thoughts I have that I like to think about. Yeah, I have a few in here. I don't know which one. That little whiteboard that it's on is in a weird place now, so I never take it down because it's kind of precariously balanced on some other stuff. But it would be good to get back into that. Some of these are like emo and dramatic, but I don't know. I don't like necessarily think of these as like variants, so some of them are kind of embarrassing and emo and dramatic, which is fine, but this is good. Moving away from a politics of numbness. That's a good one. You know, kind of relates to like songwriting and creating art, and I am becoming strange. Strength in strangeness. Let's see. How do you define enough? Oppressive time dilation. I thought that was kind of funny. Just the way that like time feels different when you're in a different like mental or emotional state. Substrate is permanent. But the other one is, the kind of pair to that one is the world is ephemeral. The world is ephemeral, and then after that, the substrate is permanent. That's like, I don't know, just something to think about. Yeah, but I got a lot in here. It's kind of fun to look back through them. There's some little like doodles in the notebook I take. So I don't know. It's kind of fun. I thought of doing like maybe a series on that kind of short form content, just like writing out, you know, I write them in my journal just like for myself, but then going through a few of them and just like writing them out with some background music. That feels like good content, but I'm bad at making things happen and sometimes, so we'll see if that ever happens. But that was a thought I had. They're like kind of short poems or contemplations, and I go through it kind of sporadically, so there's some gaps in my Good Magic notebook.
December 26, 2022, you posted, Someone go hiking with me, please.
Let's do it.
What are some of your favorite trails to go hiking around here? Or what are your favorite things about going hiking?
Yeah, well, I pretty much grew up in the woods, so that's why I need to be in the woods all the time. It's a little sad, but I don't get out as much as I want to. The river trail is pretty good. I live like a 5-minute walk to the trail, and there's like a pretty nice spot around here where there's not too many people even. I'm mostly hiking around the river trail, but if I have some time, I like to get out like Auburn and stuff. There's some good trailheads out there. And that is the closest place. And it's just different being out in like the actual woods as opposed to, I mean, the river is like nice because nature, but if you're like out there really far away from everybody, it's just a different experience. I don't know why, but it's just like a need I have, and got to be out in the woods sometimes.
I feel the same way about the ocean.
Okay. How often do you get out to the ocean?
Not very often, especially how landlocked our city is. It's definitely a bit more of a drive to get to the ocean. But we have these cravings for different aspects of nature.
Yeah. All right, maybe we can drive down to like Marin Headlands. There's some redwoods right by the ocean.
A compromise.
Yeah, you make it happen.
Now, August 10th, 2023. Can you tell me a bit about the healing generational trauma TikTok that you had posted?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so everybody's got their bag of plastic bags. And I guess it's in different cultures, but especially, you know, my dad's side is Asian, he's Japanese and Chinese. So on that side, we have trauma of just hoarding or something. And, you know, we got to have the plastic bags for some reason. So around that time, I got my several bags of plastic bags and I threw them in the trash can and got some reusable bags and I put the Enya music to it. The generational trauma was healed, but now I have another bag of plastic bags, so I have to go revisit that.
What are the other artistic ways that you express your creativity? Examples, drawing, painting, poetry?
A little bit of all of it. I go through different phases with poetry. I feel like it's the most intense art form because it's just kind of you and your thoughts. Whereas like music, you can put a little bit of your processing off on like the technical aspects of the playing or just the sounds and how you're arranging harmonies and that kind of thing. I do write poetry in phases. I'll have like a phase of a few months where I'll just be writing. I guess if you're a certain kind of artist, which I fall into this category, it's like very visceral creating art, just being like sensitive or whatever. So poetry is like really intense, and then I have to like deal with the effects of having created an authentic piece of art that I don't really have any plans because I don't really like performing poetry necessarily. I do like sharing like one-on-one kind of if I'm with somebody else who's also like into that kind of thing, but I don't like performing that much. And I do like doing visual art, drawing, and some pastels and some like acrylic or oil painting, but I'm just a little bit too disorganized right now to really put in the time to have that as a practice. But primarily, my daily main kind of ritualistic practice is just songwriting, which I do almost every day, which has been a practice I've been doing since earlier this year. And then also more technically started kind of taking some jazz lessons this year and putting the time into that. So those are, I guess, some of the main artistic things I'm involved with, and then video making too at some point. I've done a few little things, projects here and there, but also want to get into there a little bit more. But I think as I'm talking, I'm like, oh yeah, this is pretty chaotic. But I guess that's just part of, I don't know, being an artist or some kind of creative person is there's all these projects and half of them get half finished or most of them get half finished and then you move on to something else, but every once in a while you finish something. I don't know. Do you feel like, because I know you do a bunch of stuff too, so it's like, do you feel like you have a similar thing where you're doing different projects and trying to work on different things and maybe some of them don't get finished, but some of them do?
All the time. It's just finding that balance between everything. Figuring out what you can sacrifice at the time and then revisit. But then there's something.
Well, I know you mainly from music, but I know you also, I've seen some clips of your like acting back a while ago. I don't know when those are from, but do you have a music video for Goodwill?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I saw that at some point. Is there a specific art form that you feel like you also enjoy in addition to music, or that you feel like you haven't been able to spend the time on, or that you have been able to spend the time on?
Well, acting's kind of taken a back seat for a while, but recently, I mean, you've seen water painting's been a big thing for me.
Yeah, those are cool.
Tending to my garden's been another thing. That one is a bit harder to neglect because something's depending on me.
Yeah. Something's like there's consequences. The plant's gonna die.
Yeah, things come in waves. I'll get involved in a big project right away. But, life is long. We have plenty of time to venture out and do other things.
Yeah.
So let's jump back and let's visit your EP from June 17th, 2016, Half Pins and Pages, which consist of the songs I Was the Night, Jersey Roller, Take Me Away, Lullaby, Love You Forever, this one featuring Crushed Velvet.
Yeah, shout out to Coco. Such a cool singer and musician.
How did you promote this EP when you released it?
Yeah, so that's a thing I didn't really. I would just like put all these hours, like into producing, playing all the instruments and like singing, creating all these harmonies. And then like, I wasn't at the time really involved with any kind of music scene. I wasn't even like really playing open mics at the time. It's funny to look back on, just like when you get more experience in the world and these things that seemed intimidating or just like kind of out there, or, oh, I don't really have any interest in that, just for no reason other than you don't have like, that I didn't have any as much experience with those things, but just like didn't really promote it at all. I just put it on Bandcamp originally, and then like, well, a couple people bought it, and it's funny on Bandcamp, I don't know if you have this experience, but people like pay a lot more than you expect. It's like you have an EP and somebody will pay like $20 for it just because they like you. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. That feels nice. When I released it, just like some random person was like, hey, can I put this on a playlist on Bandcamp? I was like, okay, sure. I guess it's something potentially to think about as far as promotion, but I just like didn't at all. And then I was like, after that, I was like, okay, finish that project. Now I need to like get some skills to get a better paying job. And then I just focused on that for a while. But it's funny being younger, not having knowledge in these things. That feels like They're not that complicated. It's just about the ways that the world works. But I guess you have to learn them at some point, and either you might have like the right mentors for the things that you're interested, or you don't. And then I remember distinctly I had this thought of just like, okay, I'm gonna stop playing music until I get a good paying job or whatever. Like I could rent a place or whatever. Because I was just living at this dirty punk house that I paid $200 a month for, which I could afford on my AmeriCorps stipend. It was like a Adobe house in Tucson, and there's like cracks in the walls that you could see through. It was good people. It's just a little rough to live like that long term. When I was living like that, I felt motivated to try to not be living like that.
And I know Lullaby has made it into the rotation with Pomegranate Sunday, but are there any other songs on that EP, you perform for open mics or shows?
Every once in a while, I'll bring out I Was the Night, but I don't think I really play the rest of those. See, I Was the Night, Jersey Roller, Lullaby, Love You Forever, and then what was the other one on that song? That was
Take Me Away.
Oh yeah, Take Me Away, Jersey Roller. The only one out of those I really play is I Was the Night, because it's more fun. It's like the picking thing is interesting. A lot of that album like kind of relied on the production. That was another thing I was thinking about after I did that. I was like, the next phase when I did start getting back into songwriting and after I moved to LA, I was like, okay, how can I make a song sound good on its own? Because it was really fun to do all the production, but then it's like the song relies on the production. But how do you make a song that just is compelling, just like myself and an instrument? So that was my thought after that. So I don't necessarily play those anymore publicly. I do every once in a while, just go through all my songs and play them every once in a while, but I also forget about them.
May 4th, 2023, you created an Instagram account called Create Connect SAC. What was the vision behind Create Connect SAC?
So the original vision was just like, it was the new year. Well, I created that account after, but I had started getting more involved with the songwriting and kind of open mic community and going to the Songwriter Circle meetups. The original meetup was the kind of framework around it was like, okay, it's the new year. Let's get together and talk about just like artistic goals for the new year. And so I was fine with that. And I was like, okay, that was a fun time. Had a good time with these people who had met more recently, and just good conversations. And people had expressed interest in it being like a more recurring event. So we did it for about a year, just kind of going between different venues and all that. And we ended up at Self Designs Gallery, which is great. It was a cool space, and Self runs a great gallery and has different events. No more music, sadly, since too many noise complaints, but they're doing a poetry thing, which I want to check out. One of the things I'm most interested in is just kind of like talking about the philosophy of art. And I have all these questions. I listen to some podcasts, and it's like there's some bigger questions about, not even questions, but different ways that people do things, and it's interesting exploring it. It's like, oh, why do you write music? Do you write it just for yourself? Do you write it to play at like a bigger venue? Do you just want to like be a pop star? Do you want to create a movement through this way? Like maybe Chapel Road is your inspiration and you want to do something just like really fun and pop like that? Or do you want to do something that's like more small scale where you're just playing music, even with like sharing it with one person that you trust to handle your music with care? Or do you want to bring it, just be part of the songwriting scene and help support other people? So yeah, I used to come up with all these questions, and it was fun to come up with the questions about sharing your songs. What's the role of money and or like your music creating process? What kind of things inspire you that are related to your work? These are just some that I remember. So that was a kind of thought behind it. And then I don't know, I just kind of got too busy, so I stopped doing it. But I have some plans to do kind of supporting artists in other ways in the future. Just a couple projects I want to bring to life. Yeah, so that was kind of the framework around what I wanted to talk about in those meetups. And you had come to a few. Is there anything that you remember you got out of it? You didn't get anything out of it? Any memorable questions, thoughts that people brought up into discussions or anything like that?
One of the big things that I enjoyed was the community. It's nice being around other artists that are there with very like-minded views on things, or different aspects of views on things that you weren't too knowledgeable about, that all relates to like the music and like behind the scenes of the music. So it's great to be around other people creating in a way.
Yeah, same. That was one of my things too. It's like people just inherently have different approaches to creating, and it's funny because I have all these things and you just don't realize you have all these preconceived notions of the ways that you're going about creating. So yeah, for me that was one of the big things too. It's just seeing all the different perspectives, and it's just kind of related to Songwriter Circle. That was one of the things I liked about Songwriter Circle. It's like, because Songwriter Circle especially is so diverse in age, ethnicity, background, whatever, that you just see all these different approaches to like writing songs. You're like, oh, I would have never approached this thing in this way. So I feel like Create Connect was kind of in a similar vein of just having people come and express their philosophies. You know, people who are creating things express their thoughts on how they create things, and just kind of developing each other's thoughts and processes, hopefully through that, and getting different perspectives that ultimately I think leads to a more fulfilling process, a more deep work, and that kind of thing.
So you had mentioned that you were part of a band called Pomegranate Sunday. Could you tell us about Pomegranate Sunday and how you feel playing as a part of a band?
Well, Pomegranate Sunday was kind of born out of the Songwriter Circle. Just originally I was playing with Ryan as Employee of the Month because I started volunteering there and he was volunteering at Musiclandria a lot. Like, he was helping run stuff, which was cool. And then we were just talking about playing music, and I was like, hey, do you want to get together someday and just play some covers? And he's like, I love playing covers. So that was kind of how the origins, and then met Sarah and Brent through Songwriter Circle, and Sarah had reached out to me, and then I talked to Brent too, and I think we had one practice with me, Ryan, and Sarah, and then maybe me, Ryan, and Brent. After that, we kind of all got together, and then kind of like surprisingly, it's worked out because we're all kind of pretty busy with jobs and other responsibilities and everything. So it's been cool. It's been about a year, I think, we've been playing music together, but met everybody through Songwriter Circle. And yeah, it's been good. And the inspiration really is Angelite. If you know, you know. Is there like, I was telling somebody about it and they're like, oh, it's like a super group. But it's like kind of just got that more collective feel. Have you seen Angelite live?
Not yet. I've been meaning to, but they keep touring outside of the Sacramento.
Yeah, well, because they're all pretty busy with their own projects. I feel like they don't play together that much because it's like Dogpatch and Siren Soul and Soul Caracol and all those people who are super good. And I found a few of them through the Sacramento Sound Zine. I loved their thing where they were like switching who was like being the lead singer, and you know, they kind of all learned each other's tunes, and ultimately that was kind of the vision for Pomegranate Sunday, just doing like a similar thing of all these songwriters, because everybody, like, people are so talented now. Everybody is like a multi-instrumentalist, and like I didn't even know Sarah played sax before we met. I was just like, oh yeah, you have some cool songs, let's try to like work on some arrangements or whatever. And so yeah, it's been cool, and it's like really fun. It feels very exploratory. We've been playing a pretty standard set lately, but when we do bring new songs, it's just like somebody has a song they were working on, and then we kind of figure out an arrangement, do different parts, and it feels a lot easier to do stuff with other people in this way, and in ways that I wasn't even expecting. So it's just a good time, and it feels good playing music with these people who I met through Songwriter Circle, so they have some like similar creative values, I think. So we all write a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, we all have like similar thoughts on how we can write and different parts we can add. And so it feels good. And it's been feeling better and better just playing more professional shows. Like we played Chalk It Up yesterday. Thanks for coming out. Yeah, so it feels really good to do this kind of collective thing. And yeah, we also played at sort of Lucid Winery, and the Two Rivers Showcase is kind of like the main venues where we started playing out together. And then me and Ryan had played the Two Rivers set for a while, which is like a great local showcase that Steven Four-Eyed Whale puts on, which is just really cool. It's almost like community songwriter service event, you know. So there's like the 3-hour showcase, and then, you know, 30-minute set, so you get a little bit of practice before you can like get onto the bigger stages. And then kind of similar with Lucid, it's like a longer 2-hour more entertainment set, but you can kind of do whatever you want with it. Those two were kind of how we got started, and we're still doing some of those and doing some other stuff as well. But it's fun to explore with the group and just have that kind of creative side of coming up with arrangements and playing around different sounds, and then also getting the experience of being on stage more. And it's easier because everybody takes a little part of it.
All right. So you're going to represent the band for these next few questions.
Okay.
February 10th, 2024 was the first Pomegranate Sunday house show. Was this the first time you've played in a house show setting?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of funny. Technically, it was a house show, but it wasn't how I typically think of house shows. Actually, the first time I played a house show was with Hadeen, but I was just backing them up because when they lived at that bigger house with all those roommates, we played, let's see, who else was playing? Nyan did a set, and then Loki did a set, and then me and Hadeen did a set, which that's kind of how I think of a house show more. It's like in somebody's living room. But the birthday house show was where Sarah lived at the time. There's these cottages, and then they have this big like outdoor yard. So we just set up our PA system in the yard, and then there's actually quite a few people there. I don't know if like some of the neighbors came, but it was Sarah's friend Cassandra, who I'll say is a friend of the Pomegranates at this point. Cassandra's played on a couple of our sets. She plays harmonica, so it was her birthday. Yeah, we put on that house show. We had like a 2-hour set planned. We had like 20 songs on that set list, but we only got through like the first half because since we do have so many like instrument changes, we were a little bit less efficient at the time, but I feel like we're getting more efficient in our kind of instrument changes now, which feels good. Yeah, that's fun. It was maybe like the second kind of house show thing I had done, but with the Pomegranates, yeah, that was like our first house show type thing.
And then what's your preferred stage to play at? Do you prefer playing in venues, bars, house shows? Where do you think you thrive the best?
Am I speaking for Pomegranates or myself now?
For yourself.
Okay, my favorite thing musically to do, and this is like a great way to meet musicians and get a sense of their style, is just have somebody over and it's like, oh, I play a song and then you play a song and then I play a song and then you play a song, and we're just like kind of sharing and talking about the music, and that's my favorite thing to do, I think. As for like band stuff, anywhere where the sound is good enough so we can all hear each other, which lately has been happening more, which is exciting. We did like a bigger set at Old Kaz Brewery, and then we had Chalk It Up, which I think Chalk It Up is the best sound we've had out of all the shows we've played. But that's the one thing, because it's like, for me, it doesn't matter as much like the venue, but it's just like found more playing music more with people in the last couple of years as opposed to doing more solo stuff. It's just, if you like the people you're on stage with, it's a good time no matter what. There's other things we think about. It's like, well, we should probably play more bars that people are at for music instead of like not necessarily the ones we play now where either know everybody there or everybody who comes there is like our friends who come to just see us play a set. And maybe there's like a couple extra people there who we don't know. But as far as like doing the band thing, it feels like, yeah, if we can have good sound, we all, I think, like each other for the most part. And like we enjoy the company, which is good to have in a band. It's not like we don't really have band drama or anything, at least not yet. Maybe we could get into a big argument or something, but we kind of all like are doing this in addition to, you know, the main ways we're doing things in the world. So it's like more fun for us. We're trying to get things together, and you know, we're like, oh, we should play more bars locally and get our sound out more, just because that's what you're supposed to do as a band. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter too much. It's just we're having fun up there, and if we can hear each other, we can play music better, and that's what it's all about, I guess.
February 15, 2024, Pomegranate Sunday posted their Tiny Desk video. For the Tiny Desk video, what was the planning behind it? Like, was there a general plan going into it that you guys formulated beforehand, or was it more, let's just go for it kind of energy?
Yeah, probably more the latter. I mean, we probably talked about which song to do, and then we had only been playing for a couple months together at that time. So Strung was like kind of our most solid song that we had practiced enough. And we're like, okay, let's just do this because we can all get through it. We filmed at Brent's house, and he has some kind of cool art on his wall and like a bigger living room space that made it possible. And then our recording setup was kind of funny because we had my interface, which takes 4 XLRs, and then we like chained that with this other mixer I have that also has 4 inputs but has a single output. So you have to get those right because you can't really mix them. And since then we've upgraded a little bit. Like for the EP, we upgraded some gear. The deadline was coming up, and we were like, we want to do this, so let's make it happen. And then Ryan ended up mixing that song and did most of the mixing on the EP, or pretty much all of it. Yeah, so it was like kind of last minute, and we were just trying to figure things out. I think it came together pretty well, and we were all proud of the work we did, and we got featured in that little one of the Tiny Desk like compilation videos. They had like a couple hundred submissions, 2 or 3 seconds, where you would pop up and they played one of the bigger contestant songs or something. But so that was cool. We got a little recognition. But yeah, it was a fun time. And we'll probably try to do it again next year. It's just like a fun thing to do, and it's fun to see everybody else's Tiny Desks and everything like that. So,
do you think you'll do one of your originals on your own as well, or just the one with Pomegranate Sunday?
I want to. Like, my thought behind the Tiny Desk is ideally I want to be in the creative zone where I'm creating something similar that I could just submit like one version of, but I'm not really there yet. So I'm thinking like if I can get the kind of outdoors recording style going again, I would want to maybe do that as like a singular submission. But I'm not sure if I'll get around to it. But ideally, it would be cool. I think if I did a solo thing, it would be more just guitar and voice at this point, just because that's what I've been mainly working with, and then potentially doing like a Pomegranate Sunday thing.
June 25th, 2024, Pomegranate Sunday released their first single, Marty. What are your thoughts on the release of Marty? And what are your thoughts on the concept of the pre-saves?
People have different thoughts on this, and this would be a good Create Connect little area of conversation of how you want to share your music and like in what ways and what audience do you envision or that kind of thing. But personally, I don't really care at all about Spotify. It's just like really exploitative. I'm glad, like I have Spotify, so I'm kind of a hypocrite, but mostly I listen to like jazz from people who are dead, so I don't feel like it's that exploitative. Pre-saves, I don't know. I guess I don't, maybe I don't even have enough experience with the pre-saves to have thoughts on it, or I'm not like in the industry in that way. We've been kind of talking about like using TikTok more as like marketing, because ideally Spotify is sort of a marketing tool, but the way they're structured now is like it pushes a certain type of music to the top, which we might even fit into that, but I just don't like that methodology, or I just don't like that way of doing things. So right now, TikTok is more interesting as far as like a marketing tool, and then Bandcamp is great for people who really like our stuff. And we've only gotten like $20 donations for our EP, which feels cool that people want to support us in that way. It's only been a few people who've bought it, but that feels better than like 1,000 people stream your song that I'm just like, that doesn't really mean anything to me. But if somebody was like willing to put like $5 down to buy an EP, that feels like more satisfying for me, just on a personal level. And we haven't released enough music, I think, for the pre-saves to matter that much, but potentially in the future. I don't know. Do you have thoughts on pre-saves or promotion or anything in that realm?
I haven't really done a lot of research on pre-saves, so I don't really know what the benefits are for them, besides more of a marketing tool.
Yeah, I don't either. I think it's like a marketing tool you can use after you've reached a certain level of like monthly listenership or something like that, but we're probably not even at that level yet for that to matter. And it's a little different with the band because it feels a little more distant. So I feel better about doing all the promotional and marketing stuff. But for my music, it's like I'm gonna take all my stuff off of Spotify and just put it on Bandcamp. Going through my like close friends on Instagram story and just not even really releasing music, but just sharing things I'm working on with people through that way. It does feel good to share with people, but it's like so convoluted that it just feels overwhelming to try to figure out all that stuff. So I'm just like, I just want to write my songs, and other artists and people I know could listen to it if they like look at my Instagram story that day or something. But not even in a promotional way, you know, just like the private stories, you know, the close friends.
July 12th, 2024, Pomegranate released their EP, Cedar. What were some of the promotional strategies you guys did for the EP?
So we did have some thoughts, and it's still sort of ongoing. But we were like, oh, we probably should just get the EP out. We did like some staggered releases. We did Marty and then Strung maybe a couple weeks, and then we had that show at Fox and Goose, which was really fun, like to see everybody coming out. We didn't have too much stuff. We were kind of also thinking like in this day and age, you can kind of keep promoting things after they're already released. So we had thought of doing some like little music videos, and we've had some conversations, but that stuff might happen in the future. So we're kind of thinking like let's get something out so people can listen to us, and we'll have something so when we like do the annoying TikTok thing of like playing the unreleased version of your song, people actually have something to go listen to. But we have some ideas about like little videos and more, yeah, like short form content, and then also like music video type stuff that we'd be interested in doing, but we're still kind of figuring some of the promotional and marketing stuff out. But yeah, for the most part, we just did like a staggered release of the first song, Marty, and then Strung, and then we just released the EP at our EP release show. Yeah, not too much, not too involved, but I guess we're hoping we can just continue marketing that a little bit, and then we'll also be recording some new stuff soon, which is great because everybody like writes songs, so we have so many songs to work with, which is a little bit more difficult if you have like one songwriter, you know. That's another reason why it's easier to do the collective thing.
Thank you for being our guest here on the What's in Your Case podcast. Do you have anything you'd like to promote or tell the listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, we have a show coming up on the 14th at Silver Linings Bar. We're going to do an 80s indie sleaze night. That's kind of our concept. And then we'll play some original. We'll do like kind of a mix of our stuff and sort of 80s and kind of like post-punk indie stuff. And then also I'm booking a show on September 21st for this organization called Strong Towns. And then there's a local chapter called Strong Sacktown on Instagram. And they have this, their focus is about urbanism and how to make like the city better for people and more walkable and more accessible to all kinds of people. So there's this thing called Parking Day where they take over a parking lot, or in this case, somebody had donated this private street they own on our street. So check out Strong Sacktown. That's going to be on the 21st. So I'm booking that right now, and I think the Pomegranates, we're going to play a set there. And there's a few other things we have on the calendar, but I think the dates aren't exactly set. So I will leave it at those two things for now. And then we'll be recording again late September, so we should actually have some more music coming out soon. But those are the main things. And then Songwriter Circle is going to be on the 8th, September 8th. So check out Sacramento Songwriter Circle, come and write a song, or just see how people write songs if you're interested. So yeah, I think those are all the things I want to plug.